I knew this old man back in my hometown. I've known him since I was real little. He owned a ranch about a half-hour drive from my house. Dad used to take me there on the weekends. It was where I learned to ride a horse. I knew this old man, or I guess he knew me since I was real little. He was friends with my grandfather, my mother's father, who I never knew too well. In high school, early high school, my best friend Connor and I used to work in the summers at the ranch, and it was part-time, real small stuff. It wasn't a very big place, but he appreciated the help. We spent a lot of our time with the horses, feeding them, cleaning out their stables, that sort of thing. And I love to watch them run around, all free and stuff. They were beautiful. Some weekends my parents would head down to Galveston for work, and Connor and I would stay over at the ranch. The old man, his name was Mr. Burkhart. He'd let us sleep in his son's old room. It was full of old trophies and things, old jerseys and awards. He was a real athlete when he was younger. He won the 400-meter dash, third in state. My dad told me that. Anyway, most nights we would be in his room, drinking up the dust, laying on his old mattress, staring at the ceiling until we fell asleep. Some nights, though, if we could be certain that Mr. Burkhart had fallen asleep, we'd sneak out the back door and go running about the land. Racing from the barn out to the center of the main lawn, and we'd take cover beneath this old tree, lay on the thick grass, and stare up at the branches as they rose up, reaching for heaven. And we could lay there for hours, tracing the sky out with the foliage above us. And then we'd be up again, shoes off, ripping through the grass, feeling the nighttime air run itself behind our ears and up through our hair. And I would look at Connor, look at his forehead, and I could literally see the sweat on his forehead literally glisten in the moonlight. I mean, I don't think I could remember another time like that. A time where I didn't want nothing. Everything just seemed to be there. It was all there in front of me. Mr. Burkhart's son didn't come around to see him anymore. They'd gotten into a big fight a few years back before Connor and I had ever started working for him. I don't know about what, but Dad told me that he moved to New York. And I guess because of this, Mr. Burkhart was kind of a lonely old man. He didn't really have anyone aside from me, I guess, whoever came around to see him. The only two people he knew were my parents, and by the time I was in high school, they spent most of their time flying around Texas for work. So now that I think about it, there were probably long stretches of time where Connor and I were the only two souls Mr. Burkhart talked to. And he hated Connor. I mean, the only reason he was around was because he was my friend. One night, it was the summer before my senior year of high school. One of the nights we stayed over, Mr. Burkhart caught us out there. He must have never gone to sleep or something, and heard us laughing in the field, seen us out there from his bedroom window, and he came down and yelled at us, called us names. He said he knew all along that Connor was one of those boys, and that he never should have let him onto his land. Threw us right out. Didn't even let us back in to get our things. So we walked an hour home back to my house, wearing nothing but our underwear. Connor sobbed the whole way. I haven't seen him since. Last month, I flew back home for Mr. Burkhart's funeral. I had to miss a week of school. Ironically, I ended up in New York too. It was a small thing, really just people from the town, coming down to pay their respects. There wasn't really anyone left to mourn for him. I guess once I'd left, there wasn't anybody else to keep him alive. Dad had wanted me to say something at the procession, but I wanted to. And I oftentimes feel like I should have, but I don't know. His own son wasn't even there. I don't even know what I would have said if I had tried. In the end, only 13 people showed up to lay Mr. Burkhart down in the dirt. I went to go look him at the casket, but I couldn't even look at him in the eyes. I don't know. And now, here I am in New York, the same place where supposedly Mr. Burkhart's son lives. Some nights I wonder if maybe I'll run into him, or maybe I already have and I just didn't know it. And sometimes I think of Mr. Burkhart. He slips into my thoughts during the strangest little in-betweens. I think of him whenever I slide on an old pair of boots or shave my face. That sort of thing. I want remembering Mr. Burkhart to make me happy. I want so bad for those summers to be the good times, but there's some part of me that I really just can't help but feel like I hate him. I really hate him. I hate him for what he said to me, for how he made me feel. I hate him for all of it. Isn't that terrible? He's dead, buried alone in the town cemetery, and I hate him. I bet nobody even comes around to visit him anymore. He's bound to spend the rest of eternity alone with nobody who loves him. Isn't that awful?